Evelyn Hartley was not the kind of woman you'd call gullible. At 67, she'd lived through more storms than most, raising 2 kids on her own, managing the finances of a mid-size insurance firm for 3 decades, and burying her husband after a long illness. Life had sharpened her instincts, not dulled them. She lived alone now in a modest, well-kept home in a quiet Oregon town. Her days were simple, filled with gardening, crossword puzzles, and phone calls with her daughter, Clara. So when Clara called that Tuesday morning with a shaky voice and asked, "Mom, can Trevor and I stay with you for a bit?" Evelyn didn't hesitate. Of course they could. Clara was her only daughter, her heart, and if she and her husband had hit a rough patch, Evelyn would be there, no questions asked. But that's the thing about Evelyn. She might not ask out loud, but her mind never stopped working. And the moment Trevor Mills stepped through her front door with that overly polite smile and too firm handshake, something in her gut clenched. He was nice, a little too nice, always offering to take out the trash, make dinner, fix a loose doorknob, the kind of helpful that draws attention to itself. And then there were the questions. Where do you keep your important documents, Evelyn? Does this neighborhood have much crime? Is your safe fireproof? Casual on the surface, but Evelyn had worked 30 years in fraud investigation. She knew the difference between interest and intent. Still, she kept quiet, watched, took notes in her mind, because sometimes the smartest move isn't confrontation, it's patience. She'd dealt with manipulators before, but this time was different. This one wasn't a stranger. He was her son-in-law. The first week passed in a rhythm Evelyn could almost accept. Trevor woke early, made eggs, brewed coffee strong enough to lift the roof. He laughed at all the right moments, complimented her garden, even asked for advice on lawn care. On the surface, he was the perfect guest, the perfect husband, the perfect son-in-law. But Evelyn didn't trust surfaces. She trusted patterns, and Trevor was full of small inconsistencies. One morning over breakfast, he asked, "Do you still bank with that little credit union on Maple?" Evelyn blinked. "I don't remember ever telling you I did." Trevor smiled. "Oh, I think Clara mentioned it." Clara, sitting next to him, looked up, confused. "Did I?" Moments like that, small fractures in the flow of conversation began piling up. Another time, Trevor volunteered to drive her to the hardware store. On the way, he asked about her neighbor 2 doors down. "Does he still work from home? Seems like he's always there." Evelyn didn't remember mentioning Mr. Daly. She hadn't even noticed Trevor looking out the window on that side of the house. Then came the evening he lingered in the hallway after dinner. Clara was upstairs folding laundry, Evelyn in the kitchen washing dishes. When she turned around, Trevor was standing near her office door. "Just stretching my legs," he said with that same wide smile. Evelyn didn't say anything. But that night, she placed a small piece of thread between the edges of her desk drawer, just enough so that if someone opened it, it would fall. The next morning, it was on the floor. He was searching, and not randomly. She replayed every interaction, every sideways glance, and what troubled her most wasn't just that he was poking around. It was that he seemed so confident she wouldn't notice. But Evelyn had seen men like Trevor before, not in her family, but in her work, men who smiled at you while calculating what they could take. And the ones who thought older women were harmless. They were always the sloppiest. It was a Wednesday night when Evelyn felt the line had been truly crossed. Clara had gone to bed early, complaining of a headache. Trevor said he'd stay up and catch the end of a ball game. Evelyn, routine as ever, turned in at 9:30 sharp. But sleep didn't come. Something felt off, not wrong, just unsettled. She got up around midnight to get a glass of water. As she passed by the hallway, she paused. The soft glow from the living room had vanished. The house was dark, quiet. Too quiet. The next morning, when she opened her top dresser drawer to fetch a pair of socks, Evelyn paused. The drawer was off, not open, not empty, just wrong. Slightly crooked, a folder inside wasn't aligned the way she always left it. Her mother's pearls were still there, but not nestled in their usual cloth. Her stomach sank. She bent forward, inspecting the inside edge of the drawer. The tiny strip of tape she always used to secure the spare key? Gone. No residue. No key. She didn't panic. Didn't gasp. She simply closed the drawer slowly, carefully, then went downstairs and made her tea. Trevor greeted her in the kitchen, chipper as ever, shirt tucked in, hair damp from a shower. He moved about like nothing was out of place. Evelyn smiled politely, but her mind was already making a list. The key was gone. The drawer had been searched. And now, Trevor was trying to blend back in like nothing happened. But Evelyn Hartley wasn't a woman who ignored reality. She wasn't going to confront him yet. No, that would come later. First, she needed to know just how far he was willing to go. And the best way to do that was to let him think he was winning. By Friday morning, Evelyn had a plan. She started with a visit to Miller's Hardware, an unassuming little place she'd trusted for years. The clerk, a college kid named Jonah, barely raised an eyebrow when she asked, "What's the best hidden camera you've got?" "Lot of break-ins lately?" he asked. Evelyn smiled faintly, something like that. He showed her a small, motion-activated unit, black casing, wireless, infrared night vision. Perfect. She paid in cash. Next, she stopped by a party supply store 2 blocks over. There, she bought a spring-loaded confetti cannon designed for baby showers or gender reveals. She picked the gold and silver mix, the kind that clings to skin, hair, clothes, everything. When she got home, Clara and Trevor were out grocery shopping. Perfect. In the quiet of her bedroom, Evelyn set to work. She emptied the second drawer in her dresser, the one where the spare key had been taped under the lip, and carefully nestled the glitter bomb inside. With a little adjustment, she positioned the trigger mechanism so that it would only activate if someone reached far into the drawer. The front would be a decoy. Then she placed a small old luggage key where the original had been. To the untrained eye, it looked valuable, and Trevor, she suspected, wouldn't be inspecting it too closely in the dark. After that, she positioned the hidden camera inside a row of hardcover books on her nightstand, angled directly at the dresser. The lens was no larger than a fingernail, almost invisible unless you knew to look. She tested the feed through the app on her phone. Crystal clear. A few adjustments, a final check of the battery life, and everything was in place. By the time Clara and Trevor returned, Evelyn was back in the kitchen, apron on, stirring a pot of chili. Nothing in her face betrayed the fact that she had just wired her bedroom like a crime scene. Trevor gave her a too casual smile as he unloaded bags onto the counter. "Big plans for the weekend?" he asked. "Just the usual," Evelyn said warmly. "I might finally get around to cleaning out that old dresser upstairs." She watched his eyes flick upward for half a second toward the hall, toward her room, before he quickly looked away. He was going to try again. She knew it. And this time he wouldn't leave without proof sticking to his skin. Saturday evening unfolded like any other. Clara read a novel on the couch. Trevor flipped through TV channels, pretending to be relaxed. Evelyn sat in her armchair with a crossword puzzle she didn't even try to finish. The conversation was light, too light. Trevor poured himself a drink and offered Evelyn one too. "Just a little nightcap, Evelyn. Helps with sleep." She smiled gently. "Doctor's orders. No alcohol with my medication." He shrugged, but Evelyn noticed the tightness in his jaw. The offer wasn't about being polite. He wanted her sedated. "I think I'll turn in early," she said, standing. "This old body needs rest." Clara smiled. "Sleep well, Mom." Trevor nodded too cheerfully. "See you in the morning." Evelyn walked upstairs slowly, footsteps even, deliberate. Once in her bedroom, she didn't change into pajamas. She didn't brush her teeth. She didn't turn off the light. She lay down on top of the covers, fully dressed, phone in hand, watching the live camera feed. 9:42 p.m. Downstairs, she heard the soft murmur of the TV, a door opening, footsteps. At 10:31, Clara's door closed. And then, silence. Evelyn kept her breathing slow, deep, even. She watched. Midnight passed, then 1, still nothing. At 2:13 a.m., the motion sensor blinked. The hallway camera showed Trevor creeping up the stairs. He wore black, moved carefully, almost professionally, avoiding the squeaky step near the landing. Evelyn's door creaked open. She closed her eyes halfway, leaving them just open enough to see his silhouette. He paused, watched her, then entered. He moved directly to the dresser, no hesitation. He pulled open the second drawer, reached in, and Puppy. The confetti cannon exploded like a birthday gone wrong. Gold and silver glitter burst upward into Trevor's face, coating his shirt, arms, and hair in a sparkling storm. He staggered back, stunned. What the? Evelyn sat up slowly, turning on her bedside lamp. Trevor froze, hands still clutching the decoy key. Trevor? She said, her voice calm. What are you doing in my room at 2 a.m? His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I thought I heard a noise. Was just checking on you. She looked at the glitter. So the noise was in my drawer. Footsteps pounded in the hallway. Clara's voice, groggy but alarmed. Mom, what was that sound? Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't need to. Trevor was still sparkling. And nothing says guilt like a thief covered in glitter. Clara stood in the doorway, blinking against the light, her eyes adjusting to the strange scene before her. Her mother sitting upright in bed, calm but alert. Trevor, standing beside the dresser, coated in glitter from head to toe, holding a brass key like it had betrayed him. What is going on? Clara asked, stepping forward. Trevor turned quickly. It's not what it looks like. Clara's eyes narrowed. Then explain it. Because it looks like you were going through my mom's dresser in the middle of the night. Trevor glanced at Evelyn, then back to Clara. I thought I heard something. I was checking on her. And the drawer must-have had some kind of prank inside. Clara blinked. A prank. Evelyn tilted her head, her voice measured. You were checking on me. In the dark. With gloves on? Clara's gaze dropped to Trevor's hands, latex gloves, glitter-covered, guilty. Trevor stammered, I was just being careful in case someone had broken in. Nobody broke in, Evelyn interrupted. Except you. Into my drawer. At 2 a.m. The room went still. Then Evelyn reached for her phone. There's something you need to hear, she said, unlocking it. I didn't just set a glitter trap, Trevor. I also recorded something 2 nights ago, a phone call you made from the living room. Trevor stepped forward, panicked. No, don't. Clara raised a hand. Let her speak. Evelyn pressed play. Trevor's voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. The old lady's got money. I found the bank info, investment files, all of it. Once Clara's at her book club Tuesday, we've got 2 hours. I've already got the safe key. Clara's face drained of color. She backed away from Trevor as if seeing him for the first time. You were planning to rob my mom? Use me as your alibi? Trevor shook his head wildly. It's not what it sounds like. It sounds like betrayal, Evelyn said softly. And it sounds like you thought I was stupid. Trevor stood frozen, glitter falling off his sleeves like shame. He had no more lies left. And Clara had no more trust to give. Clara stared at her husband, searching for anything that made sense. How long? She asked, voice low. Trevor swallowed hard. Clara, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I got in over my head. How much do you owe? Evelyn asked, no emotion in her voice now, just clarity. Trevor hesitated, then muttered, 62,000. Clara gasped. What? Since when? Trevor rubbed his forehead. A year. The layoffs, then the bets. I thought I could flip it, make it back. I was going to fix it before you found out. So your plan was to steal from my mother, Clara said, each word sharper than the last, and then what? Disappear with me? Pretend we got a job offer in another state, like you said in that call? Trevor didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Evelyn crossed her arms, watching him silently. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about clarity. Clara finally spoke again, her voice shaking. You let me believe we were just going through a hard time. You let me ask my mother for help, knowing you had a scheme in motion. That wasn't just theft, that was manipulation. Trevor stepped toward her, pleading now. Clara, I messed up. I panicked. I thought we'd be okay if I could just get that one break. One break, she snapped. From breaking into my mother's bedroom. From drugging her with whiskey and hoping she'd sleep through it. His mouth opened, then closed again. She stepped back. No, we're done. The silence that followed was deeper than before. Evelyn finally said, "Leave your key on the counter, tonight." Trevor looked at her, glitter still clinging to his skin, shoulders sinking. And for the first time, Evelyn saw him for who he truly was, not just a desperate man, but a man willing to lie, steal, and gamble away the one thing he had left. Family. Trevor didn't argue. Not anymore. He left the room in silence, his glitter-covered shoes squeaking faintly against the hardwood floor as he disappeared down the hall. The guest room door slammed a few seconds later. Clara sat on the edge of Evelyn's bed, staring at the floor. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she whispered. "I brought him here. I trusted him." Evelyn placed a hand gently over her daughter's. "No, sweetheart, you trusted love. That's never a crime." They stayed like that for a long moment, just mother and daughter, surrounded by the quiet fallout of a man who'd mistaken kindness for weakness. Downstairs, they heard drawers opening and bags being packed in a rush. Trevor never looked back when he left. He didn't say goodbye. And he didn't leave a note. He just walked out into the night, still sparkling like a man who'd been caught not just by a trap but by the truth. The front door clicked shut. And for the first time in weeks, Evelyn felt her home breathe again. No tension, no lies. Just silence. The kind that felt like peace. 3 months passed. And Clara stayed. She found a job at the local library, nothing fancy, but honest, quiet work she grew to love. She started baking again, reading for pleasure, rediscovering the rhythm of her own life without the weight of someone else's secrets. Evelyn, meanwhile, went back to her puzzles and gardening. But now breakfast was shared, coffee brewed for two, and the house felt fuller in the best way. One morning, Clara came downstairs dressed for work. She poured herself a cup and smiled. "Any regrets about the glitter trap of March?" she asked. Evelyn chuckled. "Only that I didn't catch his face in slow motion when it blew." They both laughed, genuinely, freely. Because sometimes healing doesn't come with grand gestures or dramatic closure. Sometimes it's as simple as a quiet kitchen, a fresh start, and the knowledge that the wrong person is gone. For good. Evelyn never saw Trevor again. No legal battle, no drawn-out confrontation, just silence. But sometimes silence is the best kind of justice. Because the damage he tried to cause, the theft, the manipulation, the betrayal never took root. What he didn't count on was Evelyn's strength, her clarity, her quiet ability to observe and prepare. And what he really underestimated was a mother's instinct. This wasn't just a story about glitter or traps or a late-night heist. It was a story about trust, about how we offer pieces of ourselves to the people we love, and how devastating it is when they misuse that gift. But it's also a story about boundaries, about reclaiming control, and about refusing to be underestimated. Evelyn didn't get angry. She didn't scream. She didn't fight back with fists. She fought back with facts, with foresight, with patience. And sometimes that's more powerful than any confrontation. If this story made you think of someone or reminded you that even quiet strength is still strength, consider sharing it. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, or just send it to someone who needs to be reminded you're allowed to protect your peace. Because sometimes the best revenge is simply not letting them win.